Hello again. Well, today, this morning, we are going to look at a simple object, one that is all around us in various ways and multiple purposes. And we're going to view it as something different. We're going to view it as an object that represents our humanity and our divinity, and look at it as something that can serve as a reminder to us of our divinity and our humanity, for we are 100% human and 100% divine. And with our power of imagination and the gift of creativity, this will be easy for us to do. The object that we're going to talk about today, more specifically, is the wheel, a spoked wheel. So the spoked wheel was created, it was invented about the year 2000, before the Common Era, so around 4,000 years ago. And it was invented in Anatolia, which today is Turkey. Now, the wheel had already been invented about 2,000 years before then, the solid wheel made of rock, made of stone. So this was a transition to something lighter and easier to maneuver, and was able to serve many other purposes. The first was simply for pottery. But today's lesson is not about the history of the wheel. It's about how the spoked wheel was perceived as a teaching tool by Emilie Cady. Well, Harriet Emilie Cady was an American homeopathic physician and an author of New Thought Spiritual Teachings. Her 1896 book, called Lessons in Truth, is considered the core text on Unity teachings, is the most widely read book in Unity, and has sold over 1.6 million copies since its first publication. My copy, my little book, was published in 1936. I love to find these old editions and think about how many hands have touched this book. This was first owned by someone named Jane E. Castle. Well, there are books also, the Lessons in Truth, in our lending library that you can borrow, and also for sale in the bookstore. And our Lori Nelson led a book study on Lessons in Truth just a couple of years ago. Emilie Cady was born in 1848 in Dryden, New York. Her first job was as a school teacher in a one-room schoolhouse in her hometown. And then in the late 1860s, she decided to pursue the field of medicine and enrolled in the Homeopathic College of New York City, becoming one of the first women physicians in America. Now, she was introduced to the teachings of Albert Benjamin Simpson, who was a Canadian preacher. He was a theologian and author whose focus was on healing. And she became deeply involved and she was influenced by these metaphysical studies. She was inspired and influenced also by the biblical teachings and by the philosophy of Ralph Waldo Emerson, as were the Fillmores. She was taught by Emma Curtis Hopkins, who in New Thought is thought of as the teacher of teachers. You might remember when we looked at that diagram of the New Thought family tree, there was Emilie Cady's name as teacher of teachers right above the New Thought leaders of the 19th and 20th centuries. Well, Emilie Cady associated with several prominent leaders in the New Thought movement of the time, including divine science minister Emmett Fox, Ernest Holmes, founder of religious science, and Charles and Myrtle Fillmore, co-founders of Unity. And she wrote a pamphlet called Finding the Christ in Ourselves. And she went ahead and sent this unsolicited to Charles and Myrtle Fillmore. And it was published in their October 1891 issue of Thought. That was the name of the publication at the time. Well, Emilie Cady kept her two worlds separated from one another, disguising her family connections. As a physician, she was known as Dr. Harriet Cady. And as a New Thought author, she was known as H. Emilie Cady. Emilie Cady made her transition in 1941 in New York City at the age of 92. And it is in the final chapter of Lessons in Truth, the chapter that's called Unity of the Spirit, that she uses this metaphor of the wheel and the spokes that are the closest to the hub of the wheel. She says, I want to stimulate you to lose sight of all differences, all sides of issues and lesser things, and seek but for one thing, the consciousness of the presence of an indwelling God in your own soul and life. And believe me, just as there is less separation between the spokes of a wheel, the nearer they get to the hub, so you will find that the nearer you both come to the perfect center, which is the Father, the less difference will there be between you and your brother. The less difference there will be between you and your brother. This awareness aligns with the activity and the expressions of unconditional love, where what we are noticing is our connection, our sameness, not those attributes that separate us. And today, more than ever, I believe Emilie Cady's words contain a powerful message for each one of us. For as we focus on the hub, the center, God, I invite you to let that activity of God, of unconditional love, radiate from the center to every relationship in your life and to the world at large. The power of this focus will heal. It will harmonize and bring balance to you and to every experience in your life. So let's hold a picture in our mind of a wheel, looking first at the hub. Let's envision this hub as the source of our good. See that hub as the very essence of your divine self. At the center, you are ultimately aware of your interconnection, your oneness with spirit and with all else. Allow that hub to transform into your vision, your perception of your most holy self. What might that look like? Your most holy self. What comes to your mind as your divine essence? Is it a candle? A glowing bright light? A simmering yet powerful essence? Use whatever depiction is most meaningful to you. And now in your mind, superimpose that symbol onto the hub of the wheel so that they are one and the same. That is you being your Christ self. That is your pure, unafraid heart fully expressing itself. That is a representation of your deeply ingrained Christ consciousness, the essence of a pure heart, a oneness, a godness, the divine, universal life. You are a radiating center of God's unconditional love. That hub is you. Your radiating center in the wheel of life. When you are in the hub, there is no distance between you and another. Nothing separates you. You and all other beings are in this beautiful, bright, soothing, healing, supportive space. You are not aware of any differences between you and another. You are truly one in the energy, in the space of the divine. Now let's consider the spokes on the wheel, connecting the hub to the farthest distance, to the rim. Now on the longest parts, the distance between the spokes increases. The further you are from the hub, the further distance there is apart from those spokes. Well, those spokes are our earthly attributes, a reflection of our humanness, our personalities, where we live, where we were born, the color of our skin, our facial characteristics, the color of our hair, if we have any, the color of our eyes, type of clothing we wear, the food we eat. So very inconsequential. We think these things define us. They do not. Then there's our faith tradition, if we have one, the language we speak, who we voted for. All are peripheral to the inner being, our divine selves. Our divine selves reside in the hub, the center, the Christ consciousness. Everything else, our aspects of our humanness, moves down the spoke. And each person's personalities and biases moves down that spoke from the center. And you look at that wheel and look how far away we are from one another as the spokes widen, as they get closer to the rim, creating a greater gap between all of us. The more we leave behind our oneness and reside in our personalities, where we occupy our sense selves, where we abide in the many and very varied aspects of our humanness, we are at the farthest away from the spokes beside us, from our brothers and from our sisters. From here, we notice differences between us and others. Now we recognize separation in place of absolute oneness. Now our spokes may be quirky, they might be thorny or cranky. Our spokes might insist that they are right and everyone else is wrong. And yet, nothing prevents us from moving back up to the center from the ends of our humanness, from the ends of the spokes, where our neighbor's differences seem too great to accept, too far from us to ever find common ground. Only our awareness, our ego, our own stubbornness stops us from moving back to the center, to the hub, to the truth of our being, to our awareness of the divine within us and within all. We can ask ourselves when we notice we're making negative judgments or criticisms, emphasizing our separateness from one another, we can ask ourselves, where am I right now on that wheel? I don't feel like I'm in the center. How far from that center have I allowed myself, my true self, to travel? Do I need to be way out here in my personality, where I've lost my sense of connection with the divine and with humanity? And you make the simple decision to return to the hub, to your radiating center. So how do you do that? How do you make that shift? Well, we each find the method that works for us. Perhaps for you, it might simply be noticing and holding the intention to return to your true self. And poof, you are back to your Christ consciousness. One of my approaches is a simple affirmation I use when I'm walking, especially when I'm out for my morning walk. I repeat with each step, God is, I am, you are, we are one. God is, I am, you are, we are one. And it does not take long before I recognize that the energy, the vibration within myself has shifted. And all it took was awareness and a decision to return to your pure heart. That's all it takes. It's another tool for our spiritual toolbox, perhaps one that mentally and visually makes sense to you. A simple wheel representing our divine and our human selves. They are connected, but not the same. And then a simple intention or a mantra or some other approach to get back to where you truly want to reside, where you want to live and move and have your being. You know, we do need both our humanity and our divinity. We need our ego to keep us safe. I need that when I'm out hiking. Is that a stick or is that a snake? To pay attention to true dangers in our world. Charles Fillmore once said something to the effect of, we can't be so spiritual as to not be any earthly good. It's similar to a quote from Oliver Wendell Holmes Sr. Some people are so heavenly minded that they are no earthly good. We must still function on this planet wearing these carbon suits we call bodies and making our way in the world. And our humanness is not to be ignored or to be dismissed. It's how we get to experience the joys and the disappointments of life. Our 5 human senses, taste, touch, hearing, seeing, smelling, are wonderful tools that help us maneuver through life and to be present to it. And we are so much more than that. We are that, and we are human and divine. We are equipped with the unique ability to choose how we respond to life, to the door being closed on us, to a relationship ending, to a diagnosis, to an injury, to financial and emotional and physical changes, beginning with the minor inconveniences, that car that decided to turn right on red at the last minute and almost hit you in the intersection, that person who honked their horn, that stub toe you got when you were making the bed, that neighbor who insists on playing really loud music and not the kind that you like at all when you're trying to relax, that unanswered phone message or text, that Wi-Fi connection that won't stay connected, that device, that phone or computer or watch or coffee maker that won't behave itself and do what you want it to. When you are in the hub, in your full awareness of your oneness with life, how much would those things upset you? Not one little bit. Now, you might notice them. You might find them curious, interesting even, but not upset. Try it this month, this week, this afternoon. Enjoying the consciousness of our brother Jesus Christ, who said, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Let that radiating center of God's love fill your days and your life with seeming miracles. Notice where you are and what you're thinking, what you're saying. Return to the hub, to your pure heart, And join me in this affirmation. I am a radiating center of unconditional love. Say that with me. I am a radiating center of unconditional love. Once more. I am a radiating center of unconditional love. And for anyone else, and for everyone else, you affirm you are a radiating center of unconditional love. And so it is. And so it is.